Today, we're looking at what I actually think looks more purple, but I'm going to leave in magenta because of its name, a shimmering ink by Atramentis Magenta Red Silver. As always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, it really does help me out if you check out the entire video. Twice, from start to finish. Don't fast forward, just watch the whole thing twice, start to finish. Down in the description, you'll find a link to the playlist, so if you like magenta inks, you can check that out and see even more of them. I'm an ink guy, and I'm looking at getting into the first writing sample, 90 GSM Clairfontaine. Now I'm going to hold this at an angle again because the shimmer is strong with the Atramentis so that we can see it. And we're going to talk about this more as an in general performance instead of as an individual. You see why I have to... So if I bend it down, you can barely see it when the shimmer gets into effect. In general, we have no feather spread, halo sheen, no shadings occurring. The extra fine took 7 seconds to dry. The medium took 13 seconds to dry. The shimmer is very strong, and depending on the room you're in, could depend on... Don't use this outside. You're going to signal planes. The smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a cross Bailey with a medium nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The second writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. We do have some ghosting that's going on, no real bleeding, so not too bad. Holding it at an angle again, can't put this flat. In general, we have no feathering spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine took 11 seconds to dry, the medium took 20. Both those dry times are actually pretty darn fast on this paper. The smear test says you could not recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Kind of wish they called it more purple than magenta, because I feel like I'm going to be confusing myself in the future. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put in the water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see all of the shimmer stays in that line, but the rest of the ink pushes its way up. A solid tone, not a mixture here, not complex at all. Very straightforward, but a nice tone. The one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked into water. And it very much looks the same, so I don't expect very much resistance for this ink at all. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. We have no bleeding, no ghosting. Holding at an angle so you can see it. In general, we have no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. Generally speaking, it's a very well-behaved ink. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry. The medium took 15. The smear test, you stand a very strong chance at recovering it. I just really feel like they phoned this stuff in because there's so many different shimmers that are available for this. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it is to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, you possibly could use it. There is quite a bit of blowout, but all of the writing itself is very noticeable. You see in the picture that's here how hard it is to photograph, which is why I don't really think any shimmer ink is a good idea in a note-taking situation. Water is reactivating and starting to lift it, not nearly as much as I had expected. The glitter is very much holding itself in place, which I expected that to move away a little bit more. Pen Flush did everything that water did and more. You are really starting to break up that ink. It is moving the glitter out of the way, but it only took water to get this out of my pen. 1/3 bleach solution is completely obliterating it, but you do not need that to get it out of your pen. The next writing sample is done on original Crown Mill paper. So this one showed itself as a really shocker. There's a lot of bleeding deep into the paper, causing a lot of ghosting all the way through. I'm not even concerned about what happens down in the scrubby. In the writing itself, it is all over and constant, which I was very surprised with the Atramentis for this to happen. I'm not sure about using the back of the page. That's going to be really your choice. I probably wouldn't. Holding it at an angle so the shimmer isn't blinding. We have, as a general, no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry. The medium took 10. And the smear test, you probably could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. The Atramentis Magenta Red Silver has a viscosity of 2.92, making it just a little bit drier than normal, which I expected it to be much drier based on the 35 pounds of shimmer that were in my pen. If you're interested in how the viscosity is done and all of that kind of stuff, there's a link to that video down in the description. Let's take a look at White Lines paper. Now, this paper is not made for fountain pens, as I've said a bunch of times before, and will probably have to say every single time. There is a bunch of bleed spots that are coming through, but have not come through. They have not touched the page underneath, but they do render the back of the page useless. Oh, being a much more absorbent paper, it's actually letting us lay it down. Fantastic. I'll lay it down here. In general, we have no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine took 3 seconds to dry. The medium took 5. We see no color variation, and we see that the smear test would allow us to recover it if you smeared while you were writing. Thank you, absorbent paper. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, and the realm of normal was 13 to 21 seconds. The Atramentis Magenta Red Silver has an average dry time of 12 seconds, making it dry a little bit faster than normal. The last writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. In general, I have found this paper to perform fairly well, as the in general, it depends on the pen, but there is a lot of ghosting because of how deep this is getting through, and we're seeing a lot of spots that are almost making it through. Now, it does not stop you from using the back of the page, but it might serve as a little distracting if you fully wrote with it like this. Now, it is a bit more absorbent paper. I do think you could use the back of the page. Yeah, and this is a hit or miss. It's a bit more absorbent paper, so I was hoping that most of it would be okay. In general, we have no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry. The medium took 9. No color variation, and we're not getting it, and that's just distracting the hell out of me. The smear test says you could recover it if you smeared while you were writing. I just find this glitter to be too much. Instead of finding inks that look like the Atramentis Magenta Red Silver, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. Now, I chose a color based on it being a magenta more than being a purple, and I went with a nice blue-black by Callifolio Baikal. That way, we're not drawing any attention away from all of that shimmery goodness if you like this much shimmer. The links to other color playlists are down in the description in case you'd prefer a different complement. So what do I think of the Atramentis Magenta Red Silver? No comments on how the Atramentis puts too much sparkles. Oops, just commented on that. But the upside, the shimmer doesn't hide the color of the ink. I like this one more than most of their pearlescent inks because here the shimmer is adding to the ink instead of just covering it up. So what nib and pen will give the best writing experience with this ink? You probably guessed it, the broader, the wetter, the better. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at KWZ's Maroon.